Well, well, well. Hello, Mr. Cameron. How are you doing today?
Peachy.
Hopefully, hey everybody. Hope you can hear me. It's a it's a it's a it's a typical thing here
IT.
lately on the studio. Um, I had about 3 hours to try and get everything going here. My laptop, which I normally do the streaming on, of course, died like an hour ago. So I have an old desktop I've been trying to get ready for the show. And of course, nothing was working right. So hopefully you can hear me and give us a thumbs up and let us know that I'm sounding okay. And if you can hear Steven as well, say
Say
something, Steven.
something.
There we
Something.
go.
Hopefully it's good.
So just let us know if you guys can hear us, because once again, like my entire studio, everything's been falling apart.
Everything's in
But let's
half.
see here.
It's half a computer, half a
Every
wall, half of everything.
It is. It is. And it's hysterical. I'm sitting here, I'm like, okay, I got plenty of time. I'll get everything set up in advance. Everything will be fine. And it looks like, yep, we could be, everyone can
We're
hear us,
good.
which is
We're good.
excellent. So,
Awesome sauce. So to
you know,
mention, I pulled in a last minute guest here, which is lost your audio. I think I lost Glenn.
who, no,
Yeah,
who, me?
lost you for a second. Anyways, we got a guy. His name is Tony Cruz from Electric Adventures on his YouTube channel. He's joining us to answer some Berserk questions.
Nice.
Yep,
Excellent. So we're going to have him on the show
eventually.
on probably our next episode. But again, it's just hysterical. No matter how much you plan something, and I really planned this one out. I was going to have everything good and golden, have multiple camera angles, and the laptop just went, you know what? I'm done. So, so I'm glad you guys are joining us. I appreciate it. The Retro Buzz will be back next week. And actually, we're going to have New Wave Toys on next week. And as you all know, their newest console, Missile Command, which is one of my friggin' favorite games, is coming out in two styles. They still have the Cubert coming out, and we'll talk to them next week about when that's going to be released. 1942 did come out, and 1943 should be out soon. Now, with all that babbling on that I always talk about, Steven, what is going on in the Great White
The
North?
Great White North, we started getting snow this week. That's evil.
Ooh.
It's bad. And it's a little bit of snow. Not a lot, just a tiny little bit, enough to get everybody turning their heaters and furnaces on. And yeah, it sucked. And Saber Gaming knows what that's all about. So check out his channel too, by the way. He's a good friend. We've been playing some Valheim together. So yeah, the weather.
Tell us about Valheim. You've told me about it, but you may not know about
Oh,
Valheim.
Valheim is addiction on a game, basically. It's this $20 game on Steam, and it's great. Like it's addicting. It's essentially a survival Viking game, and I'm trying to keep the surprises for Saber Gaming himself. There, his name's Jason, and basically he loves the survival genre. So if you want to check out his channel, little plug for him. So yeah, so it's pretty cool. It's so. What about you,
I'm
Glenn?
actually living. I'm actually living the survival horror. I mean,
Yeah,
look at this. I'm surviving.
yeah.
I'm
That
in it.
that background. I mean, even your tripod doesn't even have a camera on it. That's sad.
Well, it did. That's the thing.
That's
I had
half of it.
everything
That's
set up.
again the thing of
I
halves.
know.
You got half a tripod set up, no camera, but the tripod's there, half a wall. I bet you that's half a Zaxxon back there.
Well, it's half of a not broken Zaxxon, for sure.
I'm really happy for you, Glenn,
So
that your GoFundMe was a success for
yeah,
Blue.
for Blue.
I mean, me and Glenn have been friends for a while, and I was dumbfounded and astonished that everybody chipped in and everybody did that. So I applaud everybody that did that. It's the power of the internet. It's awesome. It's great.
It is. You know what? If that what happened with Blue, if I didn't get the help I did, and this happened, this is still bad enough. Right now, I'm still fighting with State Farm, just for the water
This is not
mitigation
sponsored
and
by
mold
State Farm,
removal.
everyone, for the
And
record.
oh, no, it's most certainly not. It is most certainly not. So, the water mitigation mold removal for that was over $30,000, over $30,000. And before I even did it, State Farm goes, "Yeah, you're covered. You're covered for 20,000." Of course, I didn't know it was gonna be 30,000. They said you're covered for 20,000.
Didn't think there was a
And of
limit
course,
on
we all
that
said,
stuff.
and well, there is. But then all of a sudden, they say after we did it, they're like, "Yeah, we're not going to cover that." I'm like, what do you mean not going to cover that? So I'm still arguing with them. But the good thing
Typical
is
insurance
that
companies.
Air Care Environmental Air Care Environmental, the people who came in and did it, they've contacted me and said, listen, Glenn, we're going to work with you a little bit because we understand what's going on. So they're going to try and reduce the bill for me on that to help me out, which I think is fantastic
Oh,
of
good.
them. They're a very, very good company. It's a, it's a small company, owned by a few people, and they were very nice when they came in, and they're still trying to help me out here
Good.
with it. But State Farm,
Yeah, State Farm could jump off a bridge.
who, they have these great commercials with this guy where they're giving him 50 steaks.
Yeah, no.
And they're like, oh, no, these rates are for everyone. Yeah, well, the rates are for everyone because they're taking your money. But when you actually need them in a time of emergency,
Yeah.
they're
They're
like
not getting
everyone
the
else.
plug.
All these
We got to
companies
stop talking
walk
about
away.
them. You're promoting them at this point. Forget it. Stop. Stop.
That's true. I guess any
Yeah.
kind of
Bad publicity.
good
They
or
get
bad
zero
is
publicity here. So let's
publicity.
move on to positive things.
We will.
Awesome things.
So a couple of things. So have you gotten anything new? I mean, I got a couple new things, but have you gotten anything new? What do you have going on?
As far as toys and things, I've been quite busy getting another job, but in the last couple of weeks.
Well, tell us about that. What were you doing before? What are you doing now?
I worked for an awesome company. Well, I still do right now, called Burcell Integrated Technologies, and it's an MSP, and I was the web and graphic designer for this company. And I can not say enough great things about them. But then I got a friend of mine. He basically said, "Hey, you'd be perfect for this job." And essentially, I applied, and I ended up getting the job, which was very unexpected.
Nice.
Did 2 interviews and everything else, but it was just I was beside myself a little bit. So on to new things and new careers and stuff like that. And I'll be a web project manager. So I've been doing web development for the last 25 years.
That's kind of like cheating. That's kind of like cheating. Like, one of my son's friends' parents speak fluent Italian.
I don't speak
right. So their son speaks fluent Italian. So in school, he's taking a class Italian. Well, of course he's going to do get great grades because he speaks Italian all the time. You are a web developer anyway.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like you're cheating here because you're already good at it.
Well, thank you, and thanks for calling me a cheater. That's awesome, Glenn. Off to a great start on the show. Damn it! No, but it's good. It feels good, and it's a little nerve-wracking a little bit, but it's good. It's awesome. It's fantastic for sure. So as far as new things, I'm going to tell you a little gaming adventure that I went through in the last couple of weeks, which is interesting. I own a Neo Geo MVS setup, kind of like your arcades on the background there, which is a Neo Geo machine that takes the big, massive cartridges.
Right.
And there's a homebrew that came out called Xeno Crisis for the MVS. And for those of you who have no idea what it is, it's essentially almost like a Smash TV Robotron kind of game where you go almost berserk a little bit too, where you're going to move from one screen, but you're just shooting aliens like crazy. I was looking at this thing going, I want that game for my arcade machine. I go online. It's $500 Canadian for the cartridge. And I went, and that's the stuff. Neo Geo is expensive anyways. Like Neo Geo stuff, you might as well, sell your kidneys or whatever, right? So
they don't want my kidneys.
Yeah. Mine
don't want those.
Poor filtering also. But I did find out I have Xbox Live or Xbox Game Pass, and they have an Xbox version there, and it's great. And I got to try it on the Xbox, which runs, overly phenomenal because it's running on a crazy fast console. And it's a pretty cool game. It's just, I don't know if I can, free on Xbox and $500 on Neo Geo. You got to be a hardcore collector, I guess.
Now, is it any different? I mean, is that the price what was 500 price in US dollars?
No, was it 290 euros or British pounds, I think? And that turns into
so we both get screwed on that one.
Basically. For you guys in the States, it'd be 354-ish,
I still don't understand how the British, the euro I get it, but like the British pound is still worth so much over the dollar. I don't get it, but
yeah, it's weird. Who knows? So what about you, Glenn? Anything new and exciting at the...
A couple of things, but I want to talk about something real quick first. I had this flood down here, right? And I had so many people reach out and help and with Blue. I don't know if any of you guys follow a guy on YouTube called Mark.
Oh, yeah, that poor guy's house burnt down.
Right. Oh. So he, he's got a channel. I don't know him personally. I wish I did.
Me neither. I watch his stuff religiously, actually. I like how he puts the little gummy bears that help out kind of stuff.
Right, right. So he's a real nice guy. You know, he does all these things on YouTube with retro
Yep.
stuff. You know, showing how to do things, how to fix things. And I think it was Monday. His I guess they'll call it a flat. We'll call it a flat because that's what they would call it over
Yeah.
there. His flat burned down. Now, I don't know if it was something in his house. I don't know if he lived in an apartment or if it was his
It's a
house.
house
But the
apparently.
poor guy, well, the poor guy lost everything. I mean, everything burned to
Oh
the
yeah.
ground. He lost
Yeah, yeah. He's kind of
everything.
like us. He has
So,
rare stuff, rare consoles and all that stuff, and apparently it's one
right.
big burnt piece of plastic right now.
Yeah, he actually went through. He had a video he
Uh,
posted
saw that.
2 days ago of him walking through it, and it's all
Oh
gone.
yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know what can be done for him right now. I don't know if anyone's started
I
anything for
think
him
there
right
is.
now.
The other channel called I think his name,
Retro Man
yes,
Cave?
Neil
Was it
from the Metro
Retro
Man
Man Cave?
Cave. He's been trying to get something going. So I think in one of his videos, there's like a link to like I don't know if it's GoFundMe or anything like that, but there is a thing that you can give him some money. And by all means, guys, this guy has contributed quite a bit to the retro community.
Yep.
Uh,
And he's funny. Very
it,
funny
it's
videos.
kind of
And
weird
actually,
because he said he one of his videos made me laugh. He basically lost a microchip in his carpet, and he basically said it went to another dimension, and he's never going to find it ever again. Made me
that's what
chuckle.
happened with socks. But he's actually a guest a lot of times on Retro Man Cave. They just did a
With the
video recently
ColecoVision.
on the ColecoVision.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Exactly,
I saw
right.
that.
Surprising, we're going to talk about that again. But it was actually an NTSC ColecoVision. Video had to have been done before,
It was
the
at the
fire.
beginning. It says it right in the thing. It says this was filmed before not Neil, but Mark had lost everything.
Right. So again, if any of you guys could do anything, just go over to maybe Retro Man Cave and look at that ColecoVision
Yeah,
video. And like, there's probably something in there. I'm going to send something out to him. I'm going to try and reach out to him as well. But it just really sucks. I mean, this was bad, but it was just one floor. It wasn't my whole house. I still have a bed. I still have my photographs.
I'm sure that guy lost
Pictures.
everything or almost everything.
He did. The house looked like it was a complete
Oh
burnout on the
yeah,
inside.
yeah. Yeah, I saw that and my
So
jaw dropped. I was like, oh, good. Like not good, but goodness. I was like, oh my goodness,
right.
this is
You
terrible.
reach out for him. You could
Oh yeah,
see,
yeah.
The guy he's beside himself,
Basically,
and
what
I
happened to
don't
you,
blame
Glenn,
him.
happened to this guy too, but I think tenfold in a
Worse,
sense. It could have
right?
nobody got hurt
Worse,
apparently. So
right?
that's a great thing that nobody, you
Right.
know. But if you guys can go there, and I don't know if money's gonna help the dude out or anything. He's probably got insurance, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, I hope it's not State Farm. Sorry,
Yeah.
I gave him more there, but
No, I don't think they're
um,
in the UK or anything, but it's hard to say, I suppose. But
well, I definitely feel bad for him, Mark, and our best wishes
yeah,
go to you, and hopefully the
absolutely.
community can get together. And it's never going to be the same.
Reach out if we
Like I
can
said,
help out,
he had some
basically.
rare stuff, but
If
it really
yeah,
sucks.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, and like I was saying before, we have Tony Cruz in our chat. Is Electric Adventures, and he's
Nice.
programmed. He's a good friend of mine too, like Glenn, and he's programmed basically. We'll call it a remake of Berserk that never existed on the ColecoVision.
But it was only
I helped do the
Frenzy. We only
graphics,
had Frenzy.
so what were you saying, Glenn? Sorry.
We only got Frenzy on the ColecoVision.
That's right.
Never
That's the
got
sequel,
Berserk.
apparently, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. That
Yes.
was I was very young when those two were hitting the street, so I didn't know the difference, right? So
Oh, here we go. I'm the old guy in the farm. I get
yeah,
it.
we take you to the back of the barn and take you out, tell you about the rabbits, right? Do you ever watch that Mice and Men? Tell me about the rabbits, George.
You know what?
Oh,
I've never
watch it.
watched it.
It's not funny, but it's kind of funny. So
You know what I did watch yesterday, though? Do you want to guess? You want to know what I
a
watched yesterday?
movie or TV series?
It was an animated movie, a DC animated movie.
Did you watch Mortal Kombat?
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. But this was just
Oh,
released, I
the
think, on
Justice League one
Tuesday.
there.
It's
Injustice. Yeah,
Injustice.
yeah. Yeah, that's
Injustice.
all turned upside down
And
or whatever.
well, what it is, it was a video game. This was first a video game,
Well, the
Injustice,
fighting
where
game.
the fighting game, right? And then they made it into a comic, and the comic was phenomenal. I mean, you could actually go on YouTube, and a couple of comic book people put stories together for it. But basically, it's an alternate reality. It's not this particular Earth. It's another Earth where something happens where Superman literally goes, and said, you know what, I'm done. And he starts like killing everybody, you know,
Actually
and
murdering
Batman
people.
straight up murdering him,
Wow.
straight up murdering him. But you know, in typical fashion, he thinks he's doing the right thing. He's getting rid of the evil
Oh,
people.
I
He's getting
did
rid
see
of
the
people
scene
who are
with
going to cause
Batman
problems.
that basically tells him to stop, and he just,
Right.
says no.
Right. Now in the comic, I mean, it was phenomenal. Basically, you know, Superman. So I don't want to give everything away, but something happens to him, and he kills some people, and of course the Justice League like can't really do that, man. He's like, oh yeah, and he starts killing them. He's like, listen, I can do whatever I want. I'm Superman. So like Batman, a few people try and stand up against him. You know, Batman has done that in the past, but Superman was always holding back. Superman was always trying to not hurt people. So Batman, you know, I'm not saying Batman didn't win a couple times, you know, generally, but when Superman like lets loose, you know, there's no way. So Batman realized, you know what, we ain't gonna stop this guy. So the whole
Don't
thing
spoil it for
goes
the
on
rest
from
of
there.
us, man.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not gonna say everything. So it goes on from there. So that's what this new movie is. This new movie, I'm gonna say, was extremely loosely
Oh, that's
based
cool.
because the comic book was brutal. I'm talking like Mortal Kombat, you know, 10, 11, brutal.
Huh.
And the movie that just released, you know, it
I
was a
gotta
little
check it
bit,
out. I've been
but
wanting
to
to
me,
check
it
it
was
out.
it was disappointing for me. So I don't know if anyone in the chat has seen this yet,
Yeah, there's a couple
and
guys
if you
that
know
are
about the
chiming
original
in. They
comic.
did, yeah.
Okay, so I want to hear from their point of view. If they Wolfenaz is there as well. Hey, bud, how you felt about the comic, if you followed that, versus this? Because
And it's nothing like the video
again,
game,
it's based off
because
it.
I played the
You know,
game a
it is
lot,
based off it.
where they're
Oh
beating the
God, going
crap
on
out of
there?
each other, but it's basically.
No, we're talking straight up murder. This is
Oh wow,
murder.
okay, cool.
Yeah,
It's a
murder.
what if thing, I guess.
Um, well, it's a different Earth. You know, it's like Earth. They call that's a funny thing. They go, we're Earth One, but we're sure everyone else calls theirs Earth One too. So there's one part in the movie like, you're from Earth 22. He says, oh no, actually I'm from Earth One. You're from 22. So it's like, oh ha ha, you know, 'cause
Yeah,
they're all
yeah,
doing the same thing. But you know, I still think it's worth watching if you guys can see it. And I just want to know what your opinion is if you read the comic, or at least know about the comic versus this,
yeah, for
because
sure.
this is what kind of happens. Like I was really stoked. Like I was like,
Are
if
you
they even made
happy or
this like a
disappointed?
Darth Vader movie, I'm a little
Okay.
disappointed. Only because it probably should have been more than one film.
Oh, really?
They should have made up there. This should have been a part one, maybe a few parts. Because again, the comic had a lot of stuff in there, and they skimmed on everything throughout it. I will say there's one part. It's not going to ruin anything. But I'll say one funny part that was in there. You know, they have Arkham. We all know Arkham, right? That's where all the
Yeah,
bad
yeah.
people go. They lock them up in Arkham. So there's one part where they're all escaping, right? So Superman comes down there and they have a whole fight. And he's like, "Get back in your cages!" And they're like, "Okay." And they're like, they knew he wasn't effing around anymore. And they're back in their cages. They're like, he's losing his mind. So that was one thing I did this week.
Interesting.
I did watch that. I've gotten these in here. I'm trying to get this out to a few reviewers. I got my Discs of Tron stick here, with the deflector on here. So this is the first production version here to go along with my spinner. So I'm trying to get a few of these out to some reviewers to get their opinion on, that. So it's just been a lot going on.
Yeah.
Man.
And I saw the video that you did with your spinner that was like a trackball, and the fix coming soon for that. And
Right. It was really weird.
I saw that
My
going
spinner
left
stopped
or
working
not
with the
left.
party cades and the legacy cabinets. It just straight up stopped working. I reached out to RK1 Up and I talked to him a year ago. I'm like, oh, yeah, well, we'll work with you, help you out, and crickets. It never happened. So there's not much I could do. But a friend sent me a monitor and the Partycade PCB,
The pieces?
and that was Sean. Yeah, just the two parts. All you really needed was a
It's just
screen and
funny,
that.
the
And
pieces.
it was so simple. It just says right in the motherboard, trackball. Like they're not taking the spinner protocols for a spinner. They're using the trackball
You know what
protocol
you wonder? How
for the
did they
spinner.
come to that conclusion that this was okay? It's strange. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like there's a
Well,
spinner on the top. You use spinners in your
right.
other games, and now all of a sudden that's not, good enough or whatever.
I would say it's weird, but it's like At Games has done the same
Oh,
thing. They had a
okay.
version 1.0
But still, it's
trackball,
like,
which is their legacy, which we made a trackball for, and I have my prototype here. Then they came out with the version 1.1. They changed all the protocols, and it doesn't work. And I'm not going to go out and spend $700 to buy a 1.1 cabinet for that
yeah, yeah.
trackball. And again, I reached out to their support, and it got kind of crickets. So, fortunately, the community has been helping. They've been sending me stuff. Sean
Leave
has
it
been
to the
sending me.
community to fix stuff, huh?
Yeah,
It's like
it is. So,
unbelievable.
right. The whole point of me doing all this was to get a better rapport with these companies, with the
Yeah, yeah,
community. And that part
for sure.
did work out. So I'm happy with that. But, maybe they've gotten too big for their bridges at this point, and
Who
I'm too
knows?
small to fry. I'm just trying to help the people out.
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
not, but I'm not going to go out and spend $900 to buy a cabinet. I'm just going to test my stuff in and not, never
Dude,
use
the
it. So
stuff that you
I
got out there is awesome because you sent me some products there, and I didn't know what to expect when you sent them to me, but they're really good. Like,
right.
honest to goodness, it's like, wow, these are.
I got to send you $20.
You got to send me $20, really?
Yeah, for that
No,
testimonial.
no, it's free. It's on me.
Papa Brad's
It's on.
Gaming just said here as well. Superman could kill you by just looking at you, and that's true. I mean,
Yep.
Superman is so
Oh, that's an
overpowered.
OP superhero, man. Oh yeah.
Right? Who can really stop him? But again, if you watch the movie at the end, there's a twist, and it's kind of you can kind of predict the twist. But
In the end, though,
that was a
the
good movie.
whole I've never, some people might hate me for this. I was never a big Superman fan because of that. He's just so overpowered that you're like, oh, come on, that makes for poor storytelling. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. That's just my opinion on that superhero. I prefer the Flash. He's not invincible. I prefer Shazam. If you're talking just the DC universe, I prefer those characters.
Right,
Batman's
and
okay too.
they were
Yeah.
they were both in this movie, and extremely different from what was in the comic
Okay.
book to versus what they did in this movie. That's kind of why I was disappointed. The comic was just, I guess, almost like, again, it was brutal, but it was also very detailed, and the story had lots of twists and turns, almost like a soap opera. And this an hour and a half was just not enough to really tell
That whole story, yeah.
that story. That's why I'm probably more disappointed.
I
than anything.
really
I would have
enjoyed the
preferred maybe a
DC
three-parter.
animated movies. I really do. Like, I think they're
They're
probably
great.
better than the actual movies.
Was it Tim? I can't think of his last name. It's Tim B. The gentleman who's been doing the DC for Warner Bros. The
I
animated
know.
ones. If they had take the stories from those and made them live action, they'd be great. Like Batman versus Superman, the DC
Oh
movie
yeah,
was great. It was great. And then you watch Batman versus Superman, and
the
you're like,
live
what
action
the
one.
hell is
Yeah,
this
it was
train
terrible.
wreck? It's 3 hours of being bored and can't see because it's so pitch black. You can't
Yeah,
even see anything.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
ridiculous. But Saber Gaming saying the same thing. The DC movies,
Oh, they're
and even the
terrible.
Wonder Woman one was
You know
okay.
why?
Wonder
Because they're
Woman, the first one was
disjointed.
okay.
There's not like Marvel where they're creating a universe where they're all intertwined together. DC, it's like, here's a movie, that one's not related to that one, and people are starting to get used to that stitched universe or that central
Right,
universe, and it's just not
right.
happening. It's
Well, that's what was good about the animated ones, because the animated ones were that way. If you go right now and Google DC animated movies, and you see the whole timeline of
okay.
them, maybe the first few were not, but after that, they built the
Oh, that's
universe
cool. Yeah.
like Marvel did over years, and they
Yeah.
intertwined. And they had their piece de resistance about a year ago. They ended that universe as one, and now they're starting again with this new one. But the movies, they're trying to play catch up. They were way too late to the game, and now they're throwing everything at it with poor writing, and it's just not making it. But if they took the animated ones and just said, let's just take that same story, make a live action, they'd
Oh
be
yeah,
great.
absolutely.
They'd be great. Like,
It's a far cry from our old '70s Spider-Man with the same background going by over and over again,
right.
right? So we're kind of spoiled a little bit nowadays with way better animation and everything else.
It
But
is. It is.
but in the end, it is what it is. So I haven't been watching too many
And
movies. Been watching. What have I been watching?
well, it's starting to snow by
Oh,
you, buddy. It's
oh, it's
time to
not
get
that.
back on those movies.
Electric Adventures recommended Foundation, the TV series Foundation, and I think it's based on Isaac Asimov's novels,
Okay.
and it's
Okay.
actually really good. So I invite people to go check that out. It's pretty cool.
Well,
I'm
I'll
not a
tell
big
you.
book reader of Isaac Asimov. It's just a really good,
No.
and great special effects for a TV show. Well,
Well, I'll tell you. There's a very low, not high tech show. Jen, got me to watching this thing on Netflix called You,
You?
and just called You, like YOU,
Okay.
You, and basically, the guy was a serial killer. This guy was a serial killer. He was like dating girls, and he was like, murdering them, straight up
Damn.
murdering them. And then this one he was going to murder, he found out that she was pregnant with his child, so he couldn't murder her. But it turns out she's a bigger murderer than he is. So, they're trying to raise their kid, and she's killing people left and right. She's like whacking them for like, oh, you don't
Like
chewing
Dex-
gum? Bam!
like Dexter.
Like, kill, yeah.
Remember
Kind
the show
of. But then he's
Dexter?
got to hide the bodies. He's like, what are you doing? I thought I was bad, but now I'm covering up for you. So it's one of those movies I never would have watched. I never would have looked
You
at
ever
it.
watch Dexter?
You. I have not, but actually, fun fact is Jen's cat's name is Dexter over that
Oh,
show.
you got to watch that
She
show.
liked
It's
Dexter so
it's like
much.
the dude's got a disease of killing people. He can't help himself. It's like an itch. He's got a scratch, and he's a forensic.
Well,
It's kind of
yeah,
funny.
I know. Yeah, I know that. And so that's kind of what You is a
Okay.
little bit.
Yeah.
But what would happen if you were that and you said, you know what, I'm having a baby. I'm going to be a better person for that
Yeah, okay.
baby. And then the mother of that baby is off and everyone under the sun, and you got to hide these bodies.
What are you burying
It's
back
crazy.
there, mommy? Nothing. Just planting some tulips there. No problem.
And of course, Rick and Morty. I'm up to season 5. Of
I love Rick and Morty. I haven't watched too much of the new season when they sort of canceled it
Right.
and everybody wanted it back. I've watched, I think, 3 episodes
Right.
and haven't watched it, but I adore that show. I think it's great.
It is a great show. How about you guys in the chat? You guys are Rick and Morty fans? Hit us
Who's
up. Let me
not
know.
a Rick and Morty fan? That's probably the better question.
I can't get Cole to watch it. Cole won't watch it. I'm like, how could you not like
my
Rick
son
and Morty?
Sam loves it. He thinks it's great. It's fantastic. He just has a poster on his wall and everything. It's great. So it's
If they see now, here's the thing. They've been talking about getting what's his name to do a live action version of it from Back to the Future. Doc Brown.
Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd. Yeah, he would make a pretty good Doc Brown, but you know what? I'm just afraid they're gonna just bad writing and like ruin it.
I hope not.
They're gonna ruin
Back to the
it. Make it
Future is my
ruined.
movie, man. Like nobody touched it. Play a little bit with the characters, but that's it.
Well, like they made an animated
Oh,
Back
I
to
know.
the Future
Terrible.
back in the 90s. That wasn't that. It wasn't horrible. It really wasn't. I've seen much worse.
Oh yeah, like the
And look at-
PacMan
well, how about
animated series was
Ghostbusters?
really bad. Not the PacMan
The first-
Adventures, the one back in the 80s there.
Yeah, it was just called Pac-Man, wasn't
I
it?
forget. It was so bad.
I think it was just Pac-Man. But look at Ghostbusters. The first film was great. Second one sucked, but the animated series was pretty damn good, I thought.
Oh, Krull. Green Sammy
Krull?
87. Watched Krull last night. I remember Krull.
Oh, Krull was a good. Well, it was okay.
okay.
That was
Yeah,
with
yeah. You had to be
Cyclops,
high,
Cyclops
too,
in
for
there.
that
And you had
sequence there, but
had his frisbee with the knives that would come out of it. and
yeah, it was
everything.
great.
That wasn't
Yeah.
bad. That wasn't bad.
I got some good news for you, Glenn.
Oh, let's hear. What do you got?
Well, if you go to the Atari Age forums, there's an individual that put up a reproduction ColecoVision printed circuit board.
Oh yes, I've seen
He
that.
put it up there, and
I've seen that.
everybody just went bananas. And then he's got a bunch of 100,000 questions thrown at him. The guy's name is Fiero Luke, it seems, and there's a guy here in Canada that's building one also. It's not the same individual, but basically, it looks pretty good. So people with some dead ColecoVisions might be able to put a new board in there, So it's great.
Right. And the good thing about the ColecoVision is every part in that thing is off the shelf parts.
Not everything, but close.
So
yeah.
what isn't in there?
What was the one thing? The BIOS. That's you
okay.
can
You
reproduce
got me there, but you
that
can get
by
the BIOS.
flashing whatever there, but
Yeah, but you don't want that anyway. You want the no delay BIOS anyway from was it Console 5?
yeah, he didn't invent that one, but yeah, there's
No,
3 different BIOSes.
but you can
out
get it
there.
there.
But yeah, it's the one I like is the one you can press the fire button to skip that intro screen. You can just
Because that was one thing that always annoyed me. And I liked about Parker Brothers because Parker Brothers like to skip past
Yeah.
it. But in my head, you had to wait forever, like 5-10 seconds.
I think
You
it's
gotta
like
read
a
ColecoVision.
solid 10 seconds for sure. I think it's like 12 or 11. Like somebody timed it.
It's too long. It's way too
to a
long.
kid with the attention span of a gerbil, forget it. Yeah.
Well, you know what? We kids back then had a longer attention.
Yeah.
We did. We had it maybe
We
over
had
rabbit.
the ability to consume so much sugar without supervision. Nowadays, we got to watch the sugar intake. Okay, you can't be eating that. You can't eat 10 chocolate bars,
Those
little
were the
Timmy. Back then, it was like, give me the
those were
10
the good
chocolate
old
bars,
days.
as much money as I was able to spend at the grocery store, right? Nobody really watched, and then people have diabetes later, and we suffer for it. So
Or you might get lucky and never get it. So far, I'm good.
I've got type 2,
Haven't gotten it.
so I was a victim of that. Tear. Sorry.
That's good. They're going to cure that. I think if you get the COVID vaccine, that's a cure for everything. You'll be
Yeah, I
good.
think I'll be good. Who knows? So yeah, other than that, have you been playing around with the Amiga or anything like that, or?
Actually, between work has been insane. Down here, all my stuff is still like not around. So the
Still in
only thing I've
boxes,
really
I
been
guess. Eh?
doing, yeah, I had to get I got a storage area. I put some stuff in there, and I have three bedrooms packed with stuff, and I have to go through them still. I mean, some stuff, obviously got wet. Um, but I can't even do like I did find this. I got my glue gun. I found that, so I could do things like that. But now I got to fix my laptop over there. So I haven't really done too much. I've been playing a little bit of 1942 from New Wave Toys. They make some. I don't know if you've ever gotten anything from them,
No.
Steven, but NewAve Toys make some really nice machines. The price got up a little bit, but I
Who
still
made
think
the
it's worth it. It's
PacMan
about
one and the Miss
150.
PacMan one? Or
That was
it was
Numbskull.
Numbskull.
That's a bigger unit, and I have the Pac-Man. I have to say,
But
it's
they
a
do a
really
Miss
nice
PacMan one
Pac-Man.
too, right? Yeah.
They did that. They did Bubble Bobble, Track and Field. The only one of theirs I will probably get, because I've heard they're going to do the mirror version, is the Space Invaders.
Oh, okay, cool.
If
I
they
heard that
do
too, actually.
that
I saw
one,
that on
yeah,
somebody's YouTube channel.
instant buy. I won't even hesitate.
Oh,
Instant
that's
buy.
cool. Yeah, I don't have any of those, to be honest with you. The only ones I have is the ones you sent me. They're up there, the centipede and the little tiny, I
Right.
forget what they are, the little tiny arcades.
Super Impulse. Super
Yeah, the little
Impulse
tiny
tiny
ones. They're pretty
arcades.
cool, but I think you were telling me they're running the NES versions of the games.
Oh, those. I'm gonna send you
The
also the
tiny,
My
they were the
Arcade.
tiny
Yeah, My
arcades. They were like a
Arcade.
keychain,
Yeah. Those are custom. Those are all custom
ROMs or whatever.
versions.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
The My Arcade was doing the NES on a chip, and don't say it too loud because Negan still doesn't like me talking about NES on a chip. He gets
Okay.
mad.
Will do. I'll zip
So
it. So other than that, any good movies coming? Dune is out, based on the
Dune.
80s Dune, I guess.
Yep. And I actually liked
I
the
I
80s
didn't like
version
it when I
of
saw
Dune.
Sting there, and I'm like, go back to singing "Every Breath You Take," dude. Like, just and I didn't. I don't know why. I'm sure he did a great job in the acting world, but I was like, no, man, I'm not feeling this. And I think Dune back then, I think Patrick Stewart was in there too, wasn't he?
He was, and he looks exactly the same, which is
He didn't
insane.
age.
The guy didn't- He did now in Picard. You could tell he's up there, but he was in Excalibur, he was in Dune, and of course Star Trek, and he looked the same in all of them,
Really?
which is
I
good or
haven't
bad
seen Dune
because he
since it came out in the 80s. I rented it, which was probably a year or two after the theatrical release. But I don't hate Dune in general, but I'm going to give this new one a look and see what's going on. But what about Ghostbusters, though? Afterlife.
Oh, hold on real quick. I'm just reading Papa Brad's
Oh,
Gaming said there's an Atari 2600 version of Berserk with
oh,
speech. Now, Papa Brad's, I remember seeing that. Now, is that speech without the Atari Vox, or would you need the Atari Vox, which is a little device that plugs into the DB9 port for the speech? I mean, I'm
might be a
going to
custom
try that
cart.
anyway. It could be, but I mean, the 5200, as far as I know, was the only 8-bit machine that had
Oh,
speech.
yeah, okay.
Berserk. Well, that in the 8-bit line, I should say.
Built
The
in though, not
5200
with
and
an extra module or
yeah.
whatever.
But what happened was you have movement, and they would all freeze, intruder alert, and then they would start moving again.
Oh, okay.
So there wasn't enough capacity to do
Gotcha.
both. But yeah, Atari Age.
Oh, he says no
First of all,
Atari
everyone
box
here.
needed.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to take a look at that, or a view and a listen.
The Berserk
I
version
got
on
to
the
tell you, everyone.
Coleco will have kind of speech, which
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe Tony from Electric Adventures could chime in on that version on basically what type of speech it is. I don't know the name of it. I don't know if there is a name for that type of speech.
Well, sometimes they could just take the sound chip, and it's supposed to be robotic, so I'm sure it sounds actually pretty good. But everyone here should know about Atari Age anyway. Atari Age is a great site for,
It's a
that's
forum
not just
mainly,
Atari
but
stuff. Yeah, but it's more than Atari. They have all kinds of consoles on
Intellivision,
there.
ColecoVision, and it's all there. Yeah,
Fairchild,
yeah.
Vectrex, Xbox, PlayStation. It's all on there.
Yep.
It's all on there. So it's a good thing. And the guy who runs it, I'm friends with.
Albert, I think is his name.
He's yep,
I don't
yep.
know him
He's
at
been
all, but
busy as a bee.
I heard that's his name.
We met under very weird
Oh yeah,
circumstances, believe it or not. Very weird
do
circumstances.
tell.
So the ColecoVision had a Super Game module.
Yep.
And there was a guy named Fred who I knew
Oh yeah,
nothing
yeah,
about this,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
This guy named Fred was making Super Game modules, and I couldn't get the official one because it was always sold out, almost like my stuff. It's always sold out. This guy named Fred, I think was in
No,
Canada.
actually, he's in
You go-
Michigan.
no?
Yep,
Michigan,
yep.
okay. Okay, so it's one of us, not one of you.
Ah,
So
not
I
putting
bought
that
it.
one on me or us.
Right. So I bought it, but what I bought it for was because it was supposed to support the F18A. You just plug your F18A, which if you don't know, gave your ColecoVision VGA
Yep.
out and added a new video chip. So I'm like, cool. I don't have to desolder anything. I can put it on there and go. So I get this thing and I do a review and I put it up on Atari Age, and they like ban me and I'm getting all this hate mail from all like, what the hell is your problem? I'm like, what did I do?
Yeah.
Go, this guy, are you with this guy? I'm like, what are you talking about? This cart is bogus. First of all, I didn't know anything about it. So I sent them all the information. I even sent them the cart. I said, I don't need it. And they go, okay, we thought you were working with this guy. He's like doing all this shady stuff. I'm like, I didn't know. I just bought this device, and of course, it worked.
I got one of those
as a
too, and
Super
I'm
Game
kind of
module.
was in the similar boat. I didn't get banned or anything. I just bought it off the guy, sent him some
Right.
money, and he
Well, they
sent me
unbanned
this
me. I got unbanned.
aftermarket Super Game module, and I just bought it. Like you and I were kind of ignorant at the whole thing, right? So it
Yeah,
was
totally.
like,
I mean, I'm always
okay,
ignorant. You know me.
and I think a lot
I'm
of
always
people
ignorant.
got sucked into that because they were like, hey, I can't get one legitimately, so let's just get this thing to play our games or whatever.
My Electric Adventures just chimed in, and he's right. The Atari Box used an actual speech chip like the TI-994A, and it had a set of phonics, being able to make different e, ooh, ah, e, and it puts those together to make words.
The syllables and stuff, eh?
But I'm still right. But it's interesting to see. Like, I'm dying for the ColecoVision version. 'Cause I think the ColecoVision could do it really good justice. Because the Frenzy was very good on it. It's one of my favorite games
It's shaping
on
up
the
pretty nice,
ColecoVision.
to be quite honest. So it's he's getting close to the finish line, as we would say, right? So it's
Now, is he writing Electric Adventure? You're doing everything in
yep,
machine level code? Is it
yeah, it's all
assembly?
assembly. It's not C and
Oof.
converted. So this thing is running so efficiently, it's scary. So
It's really impressive. And they're making a lot of these arcade ports, like Donkey Kong, an unofficial port, and PacMan. And I'm shocked at how well the ColecoVision can still
oh
mimic
yeah,
those resolutions
well, just the amount
and
of
frame
detail
rates.
and some speed. And some people are actually talking about reprogramming the like Time Pilot, for example. Time Pilot, if you ever play that on ColecoVision, you have basically it runs at like 4 frames per second. Like it's pretty bad. And there's some people that have been talking about redoing it better, so it runs like fast. And apparently the code in Time Pilot was really bad. I don't know much about it, to be honest with you, but it sounds like a great idea. So I've seen that little tossed around, if you will, right? So
Well, I'm just glad to see that ColecoVision, Vectrex, Atari, and Television are still have such a huge
oh
homebrew
yeah,
community making
yep,
games
that's
for
going
it.
to keep going
Um,
forever, I think, because the like you and I doing this show and the people that love all this stuff, some of them are actually good programmers like Tony, and they'll want to make this stuff, and they'll find all the tricks to make it go faster and better and everything else. So it's pretty cool. Like, I mean, I'm impressed. What I'd like to know, if somebody in the chat could actually inform me, is how many different versions on the Atari 2600 of Pac-Man was there? I know there was the official one that came out that everybody hated,
right.
and then there's a bunch
Yep.
of them that came out from homebrewers, and I'd like to try them all to see which one I like, but I don't know what
Well, I can tell you
I
right
don't know
now,
what's what, right? Because the information's a
what you want
little,
to get, the only ones you want is there's Pac-Man 4K, and Pac-Man 8K.
okay.
Those are the only two you have
What's
to
the
care about.
difference?
There are other ones. Well, Pac-Man 4K and 8K are the same guy who
Okay,
programmed it. The first one, he was just showing in 4K what could be done,
gotcha. Proof
and
concept.
basically it was really close, really really well done. But then the 8K just kicked it into
Oh
overdrive. The
wow.
music is really really good. The intermission. So there's no question. I can tell you right now, there are a lot of different people made Pac-Man after the fact. Probably 30 or 40 people easily. But the only two you need to look at is Pac-Man 4K, Pac-Man 8K, and the one you're going to play all the time is 8K. But the 4K just kind of shows you what can be
Okay,
done in that amount of space versus what we got. If someone really took the time to actually do it,
okay.
and when you see them, if that had come out back in
Back then, yeah.
81, I mean, it would have been a completely different thing. I mean, it would have blown
Pac-Man on
people's
the
minds.
ColecoVision though. That's a whole different,
Yep, yep. Well, there was I think it was an unofficial Atari release of Pac-Man. I had it for my TI, and it just ran a little bit on the slow
Okay.
side.
But that's good to
I think
know
the
because I
ColecoVision
wondered all that stuff. I was like, hey, how
they
many different
did.
versions
I
was
was
there from homebrewers of Pac-Man trying to
a
make
lot,
a wrong into a right, in a sense?
right. Like another one is Donkey Kong on the Atari. Coleco came out with a really bad port on purpose.
Oh yeah,
They
totally. You
wanted to
could
make the
see that.
ColecoVision one really good. So there was a few, like I think one was Donkey Kong 2600, where they took the same code but added like additional levels, like all four levels
Oh
were in it.
wow.
But then there's a Donkey Kong VCS, which is, I think, the piece de resistance. It's like really, really good. Again, it's not completely arcade perfect because of the resolution.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. It's
you
an
don't have
Atari
the whole screen
2600
on
in
at
the end.
once, right? But Donkey Kong looks like the arcade Donkey Kong. There's a little flicker in there, but it looks like him. What they had to do though is they couldn't fit it all on the screen, so the screen has to scroll as you
Oh,
make your progression
interesting.
up the.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, it's again, if that had come out back then, again, they would have sold millions of them
Oh, yeah, yeah,
back
for
then,
sure.
millions.
Hmm. I'm gonna check those out because in the end, it's like the 2600. There's so much stuff that came out. The ColecoVision's a little more, I won't say structured, but the homebrew there rolls out a little less frequent. So I was just wondering.
Well, also the ColecoVision and television, everything afterwards, at least had me said structured. It's also how it worked.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, though it had a little more. It was a little more when you're coding it in a normal way. The 2600, you got to actually say, draw this line. As you're drawing that line, you have to make it do all this the code in that electron beam going across the screen. I mean, it's crazy
Hmm.
how these people had to program this thing, and then to see how much better they're making them now, doing that same ancient
They probably
way of
have a
coding.
compression algorithm or something that just makes it haul ass. That's pretty cool.
Well, there was one thing I always noticed, and I found out recently. If you look at like Miss Pac-Man on the Atari 2600, on the left-hand side, which I know you people seeing on the wrong side, so I'll show it here. On the left-hand side over here, there's these black bars, little black lines that come out maybe an inch. And I always wonder why they did that. And it turns out to make the graphics a little bit better or to make the game better, there wasn't enough processing power to draw those little spots on the screen, so they just would be black.
Huh.
So basically, the machine was pushed so hard,
And
it
that's the
was pushed
commercial
harder than
version
it
of
could
it,
actually do.
not the
Right.
homebrew.
You would get these little black lines. Well, the homebrew
There
too.
is a homebrew
Homebrews you'll
of Miss
still.
Pac-Man.
Oh yeah, they have there's a few of them.
Oh, I have to
But
check
actually,
those
I
out
have
for
to say
sure.
the Atari version really was not that bad. The Atari one was actually pretty good, I have to say.
Cool. Nothing wrong with that.
There was in the chat. Any homebrew game from any machine that you think really blew you away from what was officially released or was never released. You couldn't even get it on the
What's yours,
console. And
Glenn?
someone made a game.
Which one blew you away across
Honestly,
the board?
Pac-Man AK, for an AK and AK, because again, the Atari is a very primitive system, and it was an amazing job. And right behind that would be my Fairchild Channel F Pac-Man, which was 10 times better than the released version for the
Oh
Atari
wow.
Pac-Man. Really, really good.
Mine was the ColecoVision made by Opcode Games that had Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, and what was the other one? PacMan Plus, I think it's called, on the PacMan collection that he released.
Right, and I've seen that, and that was a beautiful
That
port of
you're
those
just
games.
blown away. You're like, if this would have came out in 1980, oh my God, like I'd be playing Pac-Man to no end. And I saw that, I was just blown away. And he did release the ROM publicly for everybody to enjoy, so you need a flash card to play it.
Right.
But incredible, you're just blown away by like I'm playing Pac-Man on my ColecoVision. And back in 1980, it didn't exist, and the only way you could play it on your ColecoVision was with an Atari 2600 adapter shoved on the
Right.
front, and you lived with the crappy version, or you dragged your butt to the arcade, and that's it. There was no.
We have a couple of real quick, a couple of chats in here. We have Jason M. I think he's talking about the new Donkey Kong for ColecoVision, which is coming out. Looks incredible, and
Yes.
I totally agree. We have Hollywood Polo saying that Wizard of War on the Atari was very good. I don't know if I've actually seen. I remember that cartridge coming out. I always played that on my Bally Astrocade, so I'll
There's a
take a look
homebrew
at
on the
that.
ColecoVision of Wizard of War.
Is there really? Does it have speech too, or
Yes,
no?
it does, and it's a
Okay.
very uh, sought after cartridge. I don't know if you can still get it or not, but it's a highly sought after game for sure. But it was a homebrew. It's not an official thing that came out. Like I think the 2600 it came out back in 1980, but this one is a homebrew.
Let's see what else we got here. I thought I saw another one in here. I have a homebrew on the 2600. It's called COVID-19. It's Space Invaders reshooting the coronavirus.
You know what? That's legit.
That's actually pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
I saw that on a YouTube channel or something. I was like, oh my God, somebody was bored.
I like that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Now, the only thing on the ColecoVision, I'm reading right here that someone's talking about the ColecoVision controllers. They weren't horrible,
yeah, they were.
but
yeah,
they weren't.
Stop right there.
No, I've used worse.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
of course there's worse.
for long gameplay, you get your hand to be like that after a while for pressing the buttons on both sides and the stick. The worst controller for me is still the Intellivision controller by far.
Yeah, I don't know what they were thinking there. Honestly, yeah, it has how many points of articulation? Big deal. It's still crap.
16 points, but it didn't mean anything.
Yeah, it really didn't. And in the end, the Atari 2600, if they would have followed that with 2 buttons, let's say, or something similar on the ColecoVision, or even copied, well, the Nintendo wasn't out at the time, but if
Right.
you had a D-pad with a number pad that you could put overlays or something, that'd be great. It'd be wonderful.
That was a thing. That NES and Nintendo got a hand. That was a game changer. That D-pad, that NES D-pad, was an absolute
They
game
actually did their
changer.
homework.
When you look before that NES release and all the controllers, no matter what you had, it was a joystick,
caveman
or it was
comparison.
it was a joystick, or a ColecoVision with a joystick on it, or an Intellivision with a joystick on it. It was innovation to a point, and we didn't know any better. I mean, we played those games, we didn't know any better. But once you tasted that NES D-pad, it was a game
It's
changer.
not just
For
that,
me,
but
at least
yeah,
it was anyway.
totally was, because when parents or people that wanted to play video games looked at an Intellivision with basically a dial pad on the damn thing and a disc and a bunch of buttons, it's intimidating. If you look at the D-pad, it's a directional D-pad with a start and select and an A and a B button, and you're done. Like it's not as complicated, more accessible, right? So in the end, they kind of shot themselves in the foot.
A
Somebody,
little bit.
somebody still to this day hasn't made an aftermarket ColecoVision controller that makes sense. And
Right.
I wish somebody would.
Right. Well,
I know there's some
there's been a
talk.
couple. No, there's been a
I know
couple.
there's some talk. No. I mean like modern, not the ones from back then that everybody's selling on eBay for $300 there. Something fairly modern. I think that'd be awesome. I think that's what we need. I think on the ColecoVision, just new controllers that everybody can use and love.
I know some people have some hate on it, but with the Intellivision, the ColecoVision, the 5200, and the Atari Jaguar, I actually liked the numeric keypad. Now, they probably didn't have to put numbers on them because you put overlays on it. But I did like the fact that, I mean, you think about now, you have these, you have your smartphone, and you can change what buttons you have for a game. That was pre-small LCD screen. You put a little overlay on there, and you had different functions. And I actually really did like that. but the ergonomics of it, holding a stick like this, that was the weird part. You know, if you had your pad here, your buttons here, and a thing in the middle, that would be probably better for the retro games.
Oh yeah, for sure, no question. You know, uh,
And Cammy's saying here that CDTV did as well. I apologize. She's right. The CDTV
on the
did have
Amiga for the Amiga.
a direction pad, buttons, and a numeric keypad in the middle. So Cammy, you are dead
I don't
right
know
there.
if Keith is still in the chat. He's a big Amiga collector, and he can tell you a story or two about the CDTV for sure. He works closely with a lot of the Amiga community and stuff like that. And the CDTV was interesting. It was an Amiga 500 in a VCR case, basically.
It was a better CDI than CDI ever did.
Well, yeah, it had an Amiga 500
plain
in
and
there.
simple.
The thing was a gaming crazy machine, you know.
When you look back, I remember I live in New York. We used to have the World of Amiga show on the Intrepid in New York City. It was one of the old warships. And every time I went there, they would have, blowouts of old stuff. Like they had Amiga 1000s, so like brand new in a box for $99.
$99,
why would I want to buy an Amiga? Not brand new in a box. Why would I want an Amiga 1000? Now I would kill for it.
Oh, everybody would want that, yeah.
Like $99 with the keyboard, with all this stuff. Like, no one wants that CDTV. Now I can't find one under like $2,000.
I know the video store where I used to live up here in Canada, the guy was getting rid of them too, just handing them out the door, and we were like, oh no, we don't want that. We've got something better. But we didn't have that collector mind or anything. You know what I mean? It was just that, I don't know, we were stupid, man.
If you only had 20/20 hindsight back then.
Oh yeah.
We both be retired selling these machines out of our garages.
At the price stuff's going for these days, oh my God, the price of retro is it's like the price
how do you
of gas.
feel about
it's
that?
Getting ridiculous, you know.
Yeah, how do you feel about that? You think eventually it's just going to crash because no one's going to spend, $10,000 for or $2 million or $5 million for a Mario Brothers?
I've seen that stuff that we'll call it maybe bogus auctions, maybe not. I don't know. But I don't think it's going to end until us Generation X folks are dead. Because we're at the age of nostalgia. We remember childhood better than it really was, probably. And, and we see this stuff, we would just want it bad. But, I mean, in 20 years, when we're maybe really old and gray and in nursing homes, will we really care? I don't know. At least for the stuff we grew up with, right?
I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to put it to people in the chat as well. Does playing a certain old game really bring you back? Do you really get the chills you had when you walked into the video game store and picked up that ColecoVision game, or you went into the arcade and played Berserk?
Not every time.
Do they still do it now? Do you still get that chill from playing it?
I will say at the beginning, yes. After a while, no. For me, anyways. I'm not speaking for everyone, but for me, it's cool, but I like to go see the stuff that I remember when I was a kid. Like on this Commodore 64 especially, I had games out the wazoo that, copying those floppy disks back then, and I'll give you
Don't copy that floppy.
I'll give you an
Don't
example
copy
of
that floppy.
how we remember stuff better than it really was. I remember when I was a kid, the game Karateka or Karateka.
Oh, I remember that. I can't play it at all.
Well, I used to think that game as a kid had the best graphics and everything else, and then you ended up loading it, and you're like, oh, okay,
that's it.
It is, and you still enjoy it, but then you realize, okay, the guy moves so slow and everything, and then you're like, oh man, and and then you go back to play games like this is for maybe the Commodore 64 people, a game called Aztec Challenge. That game would kick my ass, and it still kicks my ass. Yeah. Well, have you played Aztec Challenge, Glenn?
No, I haven't. I just read something really funny in here. That's why I leave all my cabs on in attract mode. Screw the power company. That was from Steven. I thought that was funny reading that.
Well, basically, Aztec Challenge, that game kicked my ass so many times. You had to dodge spears, go up and anyway, give it a try one day on the Commodore 64 on an emulator or something. So what?
I have to because I never. That's one of the machines, as you
Yeah,
know, never
yeah, that
owned
was my
a
machine.
C64.
Like your TI-99 was your machine. It's the game, my game machine, my programming learning machine. You get to. I don't have my glasses to read the chat. Give me a minute. Got to put my old geezer glasses on.
Cammy just said that she doesn't get that nostalgia feeling, but she still enjoys playing the games. For me, it's a mixed bag. There's some times where a game I haven't maybe played in 40 years, I find it, and, oh my God, I start playing
Yeah.
it. And like you said, it wears off kind of quick though, because you realize rose glasses are on. You remember it a lot better
Oh
perhaps
yeah,
than
for sure.
it was back in the
Like
day.
Saber Gaming, he's talking about Double Dragon. I remember in the mall here where I live now, in the place called Timmins, Double Dragon was there, and now you look at Double Dragon, you're like, oh man, what was I thinking? And there's stuff that holds up, stuff that doesn't. And it's interesting how the brain works with that, all this nostalgia, you know what I mean? I'll give you an example for me, like the 1942 game that just came out by New Wave Toys. What is it?
New Wave
What
Toys?
the
Wait,
1942 game, the little mini there.
yeah, New
Yeah,
Wave
I
Toys.
looked at
Yep.
that and I was like, I love that game. Would I
And it's
go
a beautiful
back and
cabinet.
buy this mini arcade? Did I love it that much? And my answer is no, not because it's anything against the game or New Wave Toys or anything like that. Am I going to drop? How much is it? US that game?
Uh, right
Yeah.
now about
So
150. It's gone up.
$150 for something I could play on an emulator of something you don't like that much, right? So it's kind of, for me, that's how it is. But for somebody else, it's like they probably adore that game and they'll spend the $150. So it all depends on how much those games really mean to you, right? Like in the end, it's like, okay.
For me, I like the cabinet, the artwork. I really enjoy that even more than the game itself.
Yeah, some of that stuff, it is about the art. Like if you look at the side art for, let's say, Joust with the big ostrich and
Yeah,
everything, it's something pretty remarkable to look at when you see the side of that cabinet, like Centipede. You look at the side of that cabinet, it's incredible. The artwork, and you just
it
get up to it
is.
and you're like, wow, that's pretty awesome.
But it's also the shape of the cabinet. And that's why I'm
That's a
kind of
lost art,
a little
really,
happier.
honestly.
It is, but that's why I'm a little happy with Arcade One Up now, kind of making the cabinets look a little bit like those
Yeah.
machines, because it's not just the artwork, it's the attract mode, it's the lighting, but it's also the shape. You want to go into a
Oh
room
yeah.
and see all these different machines, not the same cookie cutter
What was
design
the one
in your room.
that was crooked? What is it?
Wacko,
Wacko. It had the control panels
wacko.
off on an angle and everything. That's pretty
You're-
cool. They got to make
Yep,
a mini of
yep.
that. I don't know if the game's any good. I
I've
never played
heard,
it.
I've heard. I played it a little bit,
Okay.
but I've heard rumblings that is one that may come
Oh,
out. I know
really?
that Bruce Yeager, a friend of mine, he's been designing and making a small one
Okay.
himself. But yeah, it's just stuff like that. When you walk into a room, it's not just you can't just see that same shape. You got to see these
Well,
different
maybe
shapes.
the
You got to
next time we're
see
on the
all of them.
air, I'll put my camera in my arcade room so people can see my Turtles machine and my Miss Pac-Man machine and all that stuff. And to show that, not to show them off, but to show what it was like back then to see these machines beside each other and they're on, and you know what I mean? There's a certain, I don't know, going into an arcade with the music, the 80s music full blast and all that stuff, that's a lost art for sure. You know what I mean? So,
Well, speaking of lost
yes.
art, Deceptibum. How you doing? First of all, hi, Deceptibum. Haven't seen you in a little bit. I was just going to text him, but I'll say it here. He was saying that the Intellivision box
Oh
art
yeah.
was the
Yeah.
best, and I think that everything from the 70s into the
Yeah.
80s, the box art was beautiful, and
But
that's
they
a
actually
lost
took
art.
time
But
to do their art back then.
they did because that had to get you because the graphics in the game were not going to be anywhere
Oh
close
God,
to
no.
that, But I remember like picking up Atari 2600 games. You had like Casino, and there'd be beautiful woman
Yeah,
standing
yeah.
there, and it's
You
all
get it. It's bleep,
painted.
bleep, bleep, but that's it.
Right, exactly. But I feel bad that I didn't keep those boxes because as a kid of like 8, You wouldn't use
You just want the
like socks. You
cartridge,
got
and
rid of them.
there goes the
Just
box.
wanted the cartridge. But then when you're looking back on it, there was a book.
I did see that
The
book. I
artwork
want
of
that book,
Atari.
actually.
Right. And those guys did a beautiful job with that artwork. So to step the bum, I agree.
Yeah.
The Intellivision had some really nice
Atari
artwork. The
2600.
Atari had nice artwork, and the Fairchild had some nice. Well, okay, not so much the Fairchild. Thinking about it, it really was more like Sesame Street. But the Atari Intellivision and the ColecoVision was like the first one that changed it up. They were actually showing
The
you,
machine
here's
itself.
the arcade machine. Here's the arcade machine. This is what you're going to get.
Yeah.
And for the most part, you got pretty darn close.
In all, you know what? Overall, the ColecoVision box art is bad compared to the box art of the Intellivision and the 2600, because they actually hired
Right.
real artists to actually do their album, not album cover, but their box art cover. They actually
Right.
hired really good artists that are phenomenal. And Coleco just said, "Oh, we're going to cheap out and take a picture of the arcade machine, put the logo up there. Let's put our logo up there in a big little balloon," and that was it. End of story.
Well,
Like,
the ColecoVision was the first one that came close enough where they could pull that off. They could say, "Here's the arcade machine. This is
well,
what you're
that
going to
was
be
their whole
playing."
pitch, right? Is the arcade at
Right.
home thing for the ColecoVision. So,
Right.
yeah, that was successful most times, but sometimes it just wasn't. But yeah, for sure, it's
Now I'm going to ask you a question that was brought up on Retro Man Cave, and I want to see your opinion
okay.
on it. They did say, the ColecoVision was designed obviously well before the NES.
Yep.
And it had its life and was gone before the NES actually got to market in the U.S. But they said they felt that the ColecoVision could have definitely held its own against the NES if they went head to head. How do you feel about that?
Stock, I'll say no. But for the plants, you recall the Super Game module that was supposed to come out, that Opco just built his interpretation of it with extra RAM and a different sound chip. But back then, with the extra RAM, probably for sure it would have been close. I don't know if I won't say the PPU or the GPU, but the TI chip that's in there, the Texas Instruments video chip that's in there. I don't know if it could,
The VDP.
the VDP, that's right. I don't know if it could have handled all that stuff. I don't know. I've seen games that were adjusted for the F-18 that look pretty Nintendo-ish, we'll say, and that kind of blows me away a little bit. It was able to function, but I think it would have been a little behind. But if I don't know. If I had to put money on it, Nintendo is a better product. I'm not a Nintendo fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I think Nintendo would, if they would have went toe to toe, I think they would have won. But it would have been a close fight, so to speak, right? I don't think it would have been by a landslide or anything like that.
What I was thinking of, I remember when the NES came out, and then the Sega Master System came out. Now, the Master System had much better graphics. I still give sound to the NES. So I was going to put that in the same category. The ColecoVision was to the NES what the NES was to the Sega Master System as far as the graphic and sound capabilities. The ColecoVision may have, if it had a really good game library, which it did, but the difference is the NES started having new types of games, adventure
That's right.
games.
I agree.
Where the ColecoVision, it had Monsters Inc. Revenge. You had a couple of
But
games like
nothing
that.
Zelda type in a
No,
sense.
that 82 crash in North America, again, not people around the country or around the world, I should say, never experienced a crash that the US did, but that 82 line was arcade ports, direct
Oh yeah,
action, quick
that was their
type
quick
of games.
buck.
Right. The post era after the NES, they started getting into like adventure, like Zelda or Fantasy
Yeah.
Star. You had games that were more than like one or two
They were
screens. You had
deeper save game
much deeper.
capabilities too, right?
Right, exactly. So I think that was like the bigger thing there, because even if the ColecoVision held on, it would have had a very, very good library of games. But the kids were looking for something beyond
Yeah, it was getting
those
dated,
type of
like the
games.
technology, because if you look at the library on the ColecoVision, and I didn't notice this till I built my website, right? So I noticed that at the beginning they had strong titles, and then they started coming out with crap at the end, like Sewer Sam and stuff that they didn't really care. They just cranked it. Not that Sewer Sam's terrible, but the quality was starting to crash and burn in a sense. And if you were to put it on a chart, the chart would start going down. as far as quality and all that stuff. So that's my only thing with the ColecoVision is that they thought probably the machine was going to sell the games, not the other way around. And companies didn't
That was
understand
well,
that till much later,
right,
you know. Yeah, you
right.
can have the
That was
most powerful
definitely
thing, but if
Warner
all your games
Brothers.
suck, you know,
Right, right.
that's the thing. Like the Xbox is powerful and everything, but if Halo wouldn't have been there, that thing wouldn't have sold.
Yeah, we got Halo on the 2600 though.
Yeah. I actually know the guy who did it too, so it's
Oh, do
yeah,
you really?
Ed Freeze. He's not a we're not pals or big friends or anything, but I had lunch with the guy when I went to.
So if you're walking down the street, you would say hi. You would just walk past you.
No, he'd say hi. I know him
Okay.
well enough for that. I had lunch with him when I went to Seattle one year, and he adored the site that I built called Xbox Addict, and we had a great chat. And I commended him on his Halo 2600. He says, "Oh, I just wanted to build something fun and cool and all that." And he loves the Atari 2600. It's his childhood machine, right? So he just him and I had a great lunch, talked about the video game industry, where I thought the gaming industry was becoming so bloated that things were getting lost a little bit, and he agreed with me.
Right.
He says there was a big back in when did I have lunch with him? It was like I think 2010. That the gaming 2012 2010 that the gaming industry was becoming where you had the indie developers doing a bunch of games and then you had everybody else on doing AAA, but there was nothing in between. There was a big
Right.
gap and a big disconnect on your medium-sized games, or whatever. It was either indie developer, one guy, two guy show kind of thing, and then you had the AAA 300 people working on a game thing.
Now,
Yep,
Stephen, I mean, Cammy wrote
yep.
something here. Did you know you could play Halo on a
It was
Mac?
supposed to come out for the Mac. It was supposed to originally come out for the Mac. I don't know what processor error or whatever, but when Bungie started working on Halo, it was originally programmed on the Mac.
I remember they had a game before that. I cannot think of the name of it. It was almost like a Doom style game. So I guess that makes sense. But I never realized that they actually released it. She said
I
she only
don't know
played it
if
on the
they
Mac. I didn't.
released it. They was
Well, she had a copy. She was playing it.
on the Mac, really?
Cammy said I was only played it on my Mac. Unless it was in PC mode.
I don't. I'm not arguing, but I don't know because originally Halo was supposed to come out on Mac. Then they ditched that and they said, "Oh, we're going to do it for PC." And then Microsoft saw that and went, "We're building a nice console here. You might want to." And the rest is history, as they say. Which Halo sold the Xbox.
Oh, it definitely did.
No Halo Xbox would have been a trash can dumpster fire or whatever, and the whole thing. And it's kind of interesting to see the entire history of Halo. Um, Great people at Bungie. I've met a few of them over the years, and it's pretty cool. It's Halo has a special place in my heart. I don't love Halo, but it's just one of these cool stories of Microsoft jumping in the gaming industry and that story with Bungie and everything. It's really cool. It's a really cool story
Now,
and whatnot. So it's pretty cool.
how is your Xbox collection? Because you should be
Oh
fairly
yeah,
close to completing your collection, right?
yeah. It's I feel like I'm at a video game collectors anonymous meeting. Hi, my name is Steven. I have a problem, kind of thing. And I'm right now. I'll give you the exact number because I kind of lost track a little bit. I am missing 76 games.
Out of how many total releases for the
North
Xbox?
American only 878.
And is it different for the European
Yeah,
markets?
European, they had about, I forget how many exactly, just for their region. And then they had their regionalized Halos and all these other games, right? So their each region had kind of like their own batch of games, like the Japanese market. They had like this
Right.
really cool mech game that we never got, you know. And then yeah, I think in Korea there was these horse racing games that we never saw here because I don't know if North American folks will like horse racing, but
Right.
whatever. But basically, I'm only collecting at this point North American titles. And yeah, I'm only missing 76. And it's pretty cool because it's some of them are really good, and I'm finding some gems in there, and some of them are real stinkers. A little bit of shovelware, but not as bad as the Wii. But you know, the Wii had a lot of shovelware, but
It
the
did.
Xbox wasn't too bad. It had some, don't get me wrong, but it's pretty cool for sure. So I'm getting that collection and the ColecoVision. Well, I'm missing a few games on that, but that's getting out of hand. The whole pricing for Coleco games and that stuff. I don't want to even talk about it. It makes me angry. There's games like not games, sorry, utilities like what's it called? Super Sketch. Remember that with the pen?
Yep. Yep. I actually have that for my
Okay,
TI.
well they made a Coleco version of it, right? And I'm sure you're aware of that. And the stupid thing sells for like $300. I'm like, and
Yeah,
it's a
it's
piece
not
of
worth it.
crap. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
It's completely bad. But it's unique though because it's a wire coming out of
It
the
was.
cartridge. You know, and it's
Right. You
like,
got
oh,
it's basically it's a sketch pad with an arm that sticks out of the sketch pad. You put your pen in it, and as you move the pen around, it turns a couple of gears at the top, and it turns that into like a mouse
oh,
to
really?
draw
I
on the
didn't even
screen
know
in
that.
16 colors. Yeah. You would take what you would do is you would take a piece of paper, and there was a little latch. You put the piece of paper on it, and you put your pen in it, and you would draw, and it would very crudely translate it into the machine. Of course, the pictures they show you in the box were
Yeah.
phenomenal. You never would get them though, no matter how
Oh,
hard you
yeah, yeah.
tried.
I see Dash Rendar. He's talking about Sega Saturn games. Yeah, I saw the price of those. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I
the
don't get it. I especially
well the
disc-based games.
Saturn
It's like,
the Saturn didn't do well here in the States. It did well in
just
Japan.
copy the damn
So
things.
now,
Nobody's making money anyways. Like,
well, that's the thing. So to get them in the States, they're crazy amount of money. So I have a Sega Saturn. I have a couple of games for it, but I'm probably going to get one of the ODBs and put that in there because I can't possibly afford what these games are going for. I wouldn't even mind if these companies said, we're going to re-release these games, $5. We'll give
oh yeah, they
release the
should.
game, do that. Totally would buy it.
They should because
So it's
they
not like I
don't
wouldn't do
because I
that.
don't know. I think a lot of these companies, especially Nintendo, and they're relying on these emulators that are being programmed out there, and they're just modifying them. And instead of coming up with their own emulators, like there's no reason why Nintendo can't come out with their own Nintendo 64 emulator. That they built the damn thing. Can't you
Right.
make an emulator and get out the chip schematics and make it work somehow or whatever?
Right. No one's going to have more information than
Yeah,
them on it.
exactly. It's like you've got the keys to the kingdom here. Like, get on that, somebody. But meanwhile, they'll take some off-the-shelf emulator and cut the work in half and not give it much effort. And don't get me wrong, I don't hate the Nintendo 64, but there's only a handful of games I really like on there, and
Right.
that's it. So it is.
And Dash put in here, the discs suffer from disc rot.
Yeah,
So far, I've been lucky. I've not had any discs do that
I
yet.
only have one
But you're
original
right.
Sega Saturn game, and I think it's the one that came with it was Virtua Fighter. Or
Okay.
that it was a packing game with the console. I think that's what it was. Everything else is non-legit, we'll call it. And you know what game's really weird on there? It's called Into the Deep or something like that. It's like it's like Metal Slug with
Okay.
submarines. Hold on.
No, that's
No, but it's the same art style and everything. And what the weird part is they actually released that game, and if you have a joystick plugged in the first player one port, the game doesn't work.
right.
And you have to like restart the game, unplug player one port, and let it boot, and then you plug it in and the game works.
Was it a
No,
homebrew?
no, no. This is a legitimate game. I think it's called Into the Deep. I'm gonna just Google it real quick. Um, I think it's something like that. Hold on here.
Decepticon brought up another thing about the old games like, Elvira, King's Quest, Space Quest. I used to love those games. Leisure Suit
Oh yeah,
Larry. Used to love those
those
games.
adventure games were awesome for sure. You know what I mean? Like there's no question. Uh, I think it's called Into the Deep or something. I forget what it is.
Sounds like an adult film.
No,
You sure you
no,
got the
it's
right
not a
game?
porno.
Okay.
Not a porno. Anyways, I forget what the name of it. Somebody will probably chime in and go, "Oh, here." It's basically Metal Slug, but with submarines. You're underwater, and the artwork looks just like Metal Slug. I'll have to.
And that was the one thing the Sega Saturn had a problem with, which was like transparencies. Doing like water effects. It didn't really have transparency. It was always like dithered to make that effect. That was one of the weaknesses that the Saturn did
They had
have.
2 CPUs in there and all that stuff. It was a strange machine. It's
Well, you know why? Because they designed it to be a 2D powerhouse. They heard about the PlayStation,
and
they're
they
like, oh
panicked.
shit. And they panicked and they threw
Yep.
just said, throw another processor in there, throw this in there, and it became a mess. And it was expensive to make, let alone a nightmare to program for.
Yeah. The Sony PlayStation did 2D gaming very well. Like I was actually surprised on how good stuff looks on the PlayStation 2D.
Yep.
3D, you
Yep.
can see a little jittering and all that stuff, but still, it still looks decent.
I will say that, the PlayStation games, out of like, you look at the
In the
Dreamcast.
Hunt,
Dreamcast
that's the
came
one.
out. Yeah.
Deception.
Okay, in the Hunt.
In the Hunt.
Okay.
You don't want to replace that
I,
with a
I
C, but yeah. So
okay. When you look at like the Saturn or the PlayStation, like the Dreamcast to this day, I can still say that graphics looks pretty darn good, even in 2021, and it came out in 1999. I can't say a PlayStation or a Sega Saturn game looks good today.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Like if you got the CPS2 arcade ports, they looked amazing on the Sega Saturn. All the Capcom games, they look incredible. It'll blow your mind.
But those are all 2D. But those are
Yeah, yeah,
2D.
2D. Like they're near arcade perfect. Like if you play Outrun on the Sega Saturn, it's a one-to-one near perfect replica of the arcade version.
Right.
If you've I don't know if you've seen it or not, but Outrun.
I have. And AM2 programmed a lot. If they did the programming, they knew the architecture, and they usually can keep the frame rates up, do a really good job. They can. But 2D is fine. But I'm talking
Yeah.
3D. If you look at a 3D game for a PlayStation, a Saturn, and a Dreamcast. Now Dreamcast obviously came out
I
a
love
little
the
bit later
Dreamcast.
than those. But that Dreamcast, even today, I can put it on, play a game, and I can say the graphics look they could
Yep.
pass for this kind of like a Wii, generation. I think it looks really,
Yeah,
really good.
Steven in the chat, ever play the JVC
Ah,
XI? I got one of those.
have you,
I got
Stephen? Have you, Stephen?
I've got one.
Yes,
I
you
got
do.
one. And it was a total fluke the way I got that. Maybe I should tell that story. Maybe
Tell the story.
it's a
Let's hear
good
the story.
story. So I don't know if I told it on the show already or not, but I think I did. I'm just not sure. Basically, this thing, the JVC XI, at the time I had no idea. I had no idea what the XI was. I know what a Genesis was and a Sega CD was and the Mega Drive, all that stuff. So I go up to this guy wanted to sell me a boxed ColecoVision. So I go over there. I'm like, hey, great, a boxed ColecoVision. I never had a boxed Coleco, and the box is pretty rough. It's up there, and it's in pretty rough shape. So he basically goes, grabs the thing, and I asked him, does this work? And he's like, oh, I don't know if it works. I said, okay, well, if you didn't test it? He says, well, no, I don't have RF to, you know, not having RF could work to your advantage in a purchasing situation. I'll tell you that right now. So he basically, I'm ready to start negotiating the deal of this box ColecoVision, and he goes, wait a minute, I got something else. He takes off. He gets this Coleco Pong game with the gun.
Telstar?
Yeah,
Telstar?
it's a Telstar, but it doesn't say Telstar on it. It's like I forget what it's, Marksman or something like that.
Is it the triangle?
It's in the cupboard there. I'll have to maybe have it beside me on the next show, but it basically has the two, no, it doesn't. It's not a triangle. It's rectangular and black, and the knobs are kind of red on them and stuff like that. So he takes this thing out and he goes, "Hey, do you want this thing?" And I'm looking at it, and I like Coleco stuff, and it said Coleco Marksman, whatever, rather. I'm like, okay. And before we were negotiating again, he takes off again. And I'm like, well, come back. Let's talk money here, you know. He takes off. He comes back with this thing, the JVC XI, me not knowing what it was, and I'm looking at this thing going, does it work? He says, I don't know. And I'm like, okay. Uh, and I'm looking at this thing going, it's a CD, and I thought it was a CDI clone or something or whatever, right? So I'm just looking at this thing going, and it has a cartridge port. I don't remember a CDI or, you know, having a cartridge slot on it. So I said, okay, how much you want for everything? He's like, well, I don't know, make me an offer. So I said, okay, I don't know, take $50 for everything. You know, and I thought he'd go up to 75 or 100 or whatever. Nope, I'll do $50. The deal was done at $50 Canadian on top of that. So that's actually $3 US, you know. And I walked away with a box ColecoVision that had memory chips that were fried, easily fixed. This Pong machine, I just have to clean it. I haven't done it yet. It's still in my cupboard. But the XI, I didn't know what I had till I got back. When I got back, I told my buddy that's a Sega fanatic, and I show him. I said, "Hey, do you know what this thing is?" And he's like, "Shut up! You have an XI." He just lost his mind, and he's like asking me to sell it to him. And I'm like, "No, no, no! I'm gonna find out if it works first," because at that point there was no power supply with it, no controllers, so it's just the box. So
Well, was the XI boxed or was just the XI
just
console?
the XI console. There was no controllers because apparently there's like a JVC Sega branded controller that came with it. Apparently, no power supply. But the guy gave me a power supply and it was the wrong one. So what I did is like, okay. So I ordered on eBay the right voltage power supply, which was from a laptop, and a couple barrel adapters. So from a big barrel type power adapter to little ones, because on the back of the XI they're pretty small. So I ordered a bunch of them just to see what fits, and I plugged this thing in, put a Sega Genesis controller in this thing, and I had my EverDrive right in the thing. The thing beautifully came up, and I'm like, cool, the console part works with the cartridge. And I went, maybe the CDs don't work right. I pop a disc in there, close the lid, works like a charm. And then I called my buddy up and I'm like, hey, it works. He's like, you bastard, you bastard.
Well, you know how the Sega CD has like Sonic, you know, he's waiting there and he's with the start the game. Did JVC have Sonic there, or was it a different logo for the?
It's a JVC branded thing. When you pop the disc in, it does this different thing and it loads. So maybe one day, I'm sure there's YouTube videos on the startup screen for that, but it works great. It's small. It works fantastic. I haven't tested it in the last little while there, but last time I checked, it was working. And you never know with this old stuff. So so for $50, I got 3 consoles that are kind of working. Which, sure, why not? You know.
Well, what we're going to do is we've gotten a little bit long tonight, and that was a good story. We're going to end on that note. Yep. Stephen, you have anything you want to say before we go?
Yeah, working on a logo. So that's coming soon. So me and Glenn, with Glenn's poor mishap with his basement and stuff, so we had to just put the whole thing on hold. And I've been applying for work and all these different things. So life has kicked in, being busy. But
damn that life.
Yeah, life.
Damn it.
Yeah, for sure. But no, I don't think I have anything. Unless you were insinuating I should be telling people about something.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I was like, I'm blanking out here. You know.
Next week at 8 p.m., we're going to have New Wave Toys on the show to talk about their new Missile Command console. Of course, Steven, Doug, and myself, and Retro Babe will be on the show. And Steven and I, once we get the logo set and a new start, starting to the videos, we will pick out a time and we'll have, a regular show coming in at that point. Right now, we're just kind of filling in the blanks, if you will. Yeah. But that's going to change.
Yeah, for sure. We'll let you get settled in a bit more and work out the kinks in your setup. And
man, what a disaster was
it. Dude, you got to work at the last bit there, so kudos to you.
Show must go on. That's the saying. The show must go on.
For sure.
So I want to thank you again, Stephen, for coming on the show. And I want to thank everyone out there, all the people in the chat. Really appreciate you guys staying with us tonight. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Tell your family you love them. Tell your friends you love them. And what do we tell them at the end,
Game
Steven?
on.
Game on, my friends. Have a good night.
Good night, guys.
At the Tiny Arcade fan page. Remember, don't admire people too much. They'll disappoint you. Sit, Blue Blue, sit. Good dog.